Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Cooking with Unity. I'm your host, Max Moreau. With me is my friend Jeffrey here, Jeffrey Hawthorne, and we are doing more 2D stuff. Bear with me today. I'm still on the tail end of a sickness thing, and my nerves are a little bit shot, but I think we're good for doing the episode tonight. So today we're going to do power-ups. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to main screen. And what we had last time when we were doing our 2D shooter, so long ago, is we got this cool shot pattern thing going on, where the enemy goes through like a series of different shot patterns that are dictated by a animation controller, and you basically have to try and survive it and kill the dude by shooting at him a whole bunch. We didn't really balance out the amount of hit points he takes, so we probably wouldn't see all of the shot patterns, but those are the three. This is the third shot pattern here, so I'm going to go ahead and kill him real quick. Maybe. Yeah, got him. Oh, I died. And it takes forever to load the UI the first time.
I was just about to say that you are quite good at that game.
Thank you. Except for I died at the end.
Yes.
So... Good that you didn't say anything then, because then you would have felt bad that you had done it to me, even though it totally was going to happen anyway. So what I want to do this episode is kind of do just a power-up system, and then maybe we'll work on kind of a level flow if we have time. So the first thing I want to do is just like make an object for power-ups. So let's look at what we got in this sprite art here. We'll look at the lasers. That looks kind of like a power-up. Yeah, I like that. What color do you think we should go for it? So, our shot colors are green, right? The enemy shots are blue. Our ship is red. Let's make the power-ups green to match the shots. So, I'm going to... I forgot if we copied these over to something else. We did for the player ship. I'm not going to worry about it for these. So we're just going to do lasers. We're going to drag the laser green into the scene here. Find it somewhere. Where did it actually go? Oh, it's right there underneath the widgets that we can't see through. So if we move it off to the side, we can see it there and work on it. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Let's make it two... Whoop. That's too many. Two. We'll keep it uniform, even though that last one doesn't really matter too much. What are we using for the import settings on this? I'm just curious. Filter mode point. Okay, cool. Pivot center. All that seems good. All right, so we'll just make this little thing a power-up. So I'm going to call this a power-up. And so things we're going to need. We're going to need a collider on this. So we're going to create a... physics. We're going to add a rigid body, first of all. Set it to kinematic. Don't use gravity. We're going to add a sphere collider. Yeah, that describes it pretty well. I like that. And what are we going to do else? So, this should be all we need to get started. Now, right now, I think if we just were to run this thing with this collider here, it'll kill us really nicely. Like, it just immediately destroys us. It also seems to block all of the bullets and stuff. And so what we have right now on the player is gib on trigger. And so if we trigger anything, we gib. And so what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to actually separate this out so that the player has collision for collecting power-ups and collision for collecting for getting hit. We could also do it by filtering out via tag, but if we do it this way, we get the advantage of the layer systems working for us rather than having us to do an additional check in conjunction with them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new sub object here. So we're going to go ahead and create empty game object. I'm going to put it in the player here. I'm going to set it to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 all over the place. And we're going to call this the player damage collider. And we're going to move this Gibbon trigger here. We're going to copy component and paste it onto the player damage collider. Paste component is new. And we're going to grab the box collider, copy component, and paste component as new. And so if we go to here right now, I just want to make sure that the collider appears to be set up properly. So player, so we have that really tiny box that you can barely see in the middle there when I click it on and off. Does this thing have the similar thing? We wouldn't be able to see it because of the movement thing. Let's do that. There we go. So I'm not sure if it's actually the right size. Let me actually remove it from here, remove components, and then check it again. Yeah, okay. Yep, it's in the right spot. It looks to be the right size still. So all that's good. And so now we're going to move the give on trigger script. I'm going to copy component. Oh wait, I already did that. I'm just going to remove it from the old one. So trigger messages and on collision messages, when they happen, they get sent to the collider that got the event. They get sent to the rigid body that owns the collider. So it'll be sent up the chain if there's not one immediately on the collider. So it'll be sent to the player as well as the player damage collider in this instance. So we're going to additionally create a new thing that's very similar to this. I'm going to just duplicate it for right now. We're going to call this the player power-up collider. And this one we're going to make a lot bigger because we want to actually make it so that the player collects things when you would expect them to. So we're going to make it take up basically the whole ship there. And Z1 will be fine on that. And so we're going to actually put these on different layers now. So if we go to, so we've got, I'm going to do a layer here. So we've got a layer for player already. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to make that the player layer. And then I'm going to make a player power up. Actually, yeah. Power up collider. Yeah, why not? And then power up. So the power up collider is going to use the power up collider. This one's going to use player, and I'm going to leave this on the player layer. I don't think it will mess anything up. We'll find out though. So now we're going to go into our physics settings. Go into physics. And we're going to make sure that the player does not... Okay, so the power-up collider should only collide with power-ups. So power-up and power-up collider, we want those colliding, and then pretty much everything else should not collide with these. So that's power-up collider collides with power-up. Nothing else. And so if we hit play, hopefully this will no longer kill us, and it should no longer... Oh, well, it... that was weird. Oh, I know what happened there. So it still killed us. Oh, and that's probably because I didn't actually set the power-up to be on the right layer. Yeah, we need to have this on the power-up layer. So if we hit play now, it should no longer occlude those projectiles, and we should... No, we still died. Oh yeah, that's right. We need to make sure that so Power up collider, power up. Those aren't colliding with anything though. Huh. Alright, wait. So power up, player power up collider. Let's check to see what the player can collide with. Player can collide with enemy bullets, enemies, and default. Weird. So the reason the player's not actually dying when he dies right now is because, like, you see that effect happening, and now I can. It's interesting the effect happened twice. Because I think it's destroying the. Oh, I've got give on trigger. Okay, that's my problem. So if we go to power up collider, we don't want this. Remove component. There we go. And we want to change our give on trigger so that it can actually destroy something that's not the object. So public game object object to destroy equals null. If object to destroy equals null, then we will set object to destroy equals game object. So now this thing will automatically grab whatever's attached to if we don't specify a separate object, and then we're going to set, instead of destroy game object, we destroy game object to destroy. So this will compile and show up here, and then we're going to put in the parent player on here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit apply to the prefab so that we can make sure that we save that stuff. So now if I move over here, nothing happens. That's good. And if I get hit by a projectile, there we go, I died. It's hard to get hit by those things, I thought. And let's make sure I can still ram the enemy here. Yep, dead. So it's actually properly doing the game over, and the power-up is no longer hurting our player. So now we actually have to figure out how we're going to do our power-up logic. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a... Let's see, what's the player running right now? Player movement, sprite renderer... that there were things appearing. Why does it say power up clone when I click here occasionally? Whatever. I'm not going to worry about it. That's a lie. I'm already worried about it. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a script for the power up, I think. So we're going to create a C# script called power up. And I'm going to quit this program here. All right. And what this is going to do is void on trigger enter. I'm going to make it real simple to start. We'll do collider col. And all this is going to do is do a if col.tag equals player. I guess we can always assume that yeah, let's just assume we don't even need to do any of these checks. We'll just do all right. So we're going to get the player, and we're going to... we don't have a script that defines this yet, do we? No. Let's add one. We'll do it in a second here. We'll just assume that it exists for right now. So we're going to do send message... Okay, so it's up to the player. So game object dot find game object with tag player. And then we will dot send message power up. Hopefully that'll be allowed with a class name and a function name separate. Yeah, I think that'll work. We'll find out. And then we'll destroy ourselves. So destroy game object. So if I play it now and run into this thing, it should go away, and it didn't. Nope, nothing. Alright, why did that happen? So, Power Up Collider, oh, because I didn't actually put the script on it. So, let's try that again. So we want to do Power Up, throw this on the Power Up, hit play, and there we go. It disappeared and it said send message power up has no receiver. So that's good. That's because we haven't actually written one for us yet. So I'm going to create a new script called Power Up Manager. And we're going to just create some BS variables to start here. So public, let's do private int power level equals 0. And we'll do yeah, that may be all we need. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a function called void power up. This is what's going to be called by our send message call. And all we're going to do is just set power level plus plus. And so right now it's not going to do a whole lot, but we can actually see what's doing using the debug stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Power Up Manager on the player, and I'm going to show the debug view so that we can see the power level here, and we'll see if it's actually properly calling the script. So, whoops, let me actually not maximize on play on this time. So we're going to run into this power up, and it says power level 1. Sweet. So it hasn't done anything to actually change what our bullets do or anything. It just changes our power level right at the moment. So we need to actually add some functionality to that to actually hook this into the system here. So what would be easy to do? So right now we've got left barrel, right barrel, barrel, and player damage collider. So let's make it so that we don't start with the left barrel, right barrel, missile launcher left, missile launcher right, and we'll add those in as we get power-ups. So we will go into, let's get out of debug mode so that we don't confuse ourselves too much. And let's go into our Power Up Manager. And I'm going to create a public game object. Actually, public. We'll do using system.collections dot generic. Actually, we can just use the array. You don't have to update this at the same time. So public game object array. Weapons. And what we're going to just do is we're just going to enable these weapons as our power level goes up. So I'm going to start with them disabled. So we're just going to disable all of these. And we're then going to put these into our. Oh, I need to actually save this file. Save. So we should see our public list here. So weapons. So I'm just going to grab. So we'll do. I may actually reorganize this in a second, but we'll just do this to make sure that it works first. So left barrel, then we'll do right barrel, then we'll do missile launcher left, then we'll do missile launcher right. And what we're going to actually enable here is... I'm going to actually set the power level to -1 to start. And if power level is less than weapons dot count, no, dot length, then we will enable that weapon. So we'll do weapons power level dot weapons power level dot enable, no, dot active, set active, thank you. True.
Are you going to make it a two-dimensional array so you could have them on different power levels?
Yeah, I'm thinking I might do not a two-dimensional array, but I'll do a class list thing so that the class will have like what gets enabled on each thing. So we're going to hit play now. So now we've got this little pea shooter thing, and we're going to be like, oh, okay, I need a power-up so that I can actually kill this boss. And so I'm going to try not to die. And the boss is being mean. All right, there we go. And so now I've got a power-up, yay! And it totally worked. So we have one of our power-up things. And so if we were to put a few of these in the stage, I'm going to actually create a prefab while we're thinking about it. So we'll just drag this into prefabs. If we were to duplicate this a few times, we can totally... just literally play field with them. So we've got power level 1, power level 2, power level 3. Oh, that's interesting. We lost the pattern because of the fact that it's disabled entirely. So,
you can check and set the angle equal at the start.
Alright, so, yeah, that's what we can do. So...
Although I'm assuming you're going to have them on the same power-up anyway. Or were you going to separate them out?
I was going to... I guess I could just disable the player shoot script, actually, as opposed to disabling the whole thing. And then it would stay in sync properly. Let's do that. So instead of power level dot set active true, we're going to change this to power level dot get component. Well, actually, got a better idea. Enabled. Now what we're going to do is instead of game object, we'll call this player shoot. And that was horrible.
You mean dot active?
I think it's enabled.
Oh, okay.
For scripts, it is.
Oh, it's... Oh, okay. You changed it, yeah.
Dot enabled. Oh, equals true. It actually said something, not just say enabled. All right, so what I'm going to do now is we need to actually repopulate this because it will have nothing in there now. So we're going to do left barrel, right barrel, missile launcher left, missile launcher right. And that's no good because I didn't actually disable the scripts in the first place. So get rid of all these, and then we hit play. So now we've got the basic shot, we've got the dual shot. Now it actually looks right. and all the timing's proper now. In the case of the missiles, it's based on whenever it's ready to fire next anyway, so that's fine. So we have power-ups. Now, right now, they don't actually come out of anything, and they don't actually move in any way. So we should fix both of those things up. What we're gonna do is let's see if we got any questions. There's no questions here, it looks like. Alright. Looks like people are just complaining about how terrible YouTube has begun, which is fine by me. And Chrome, for that matter. Alright, so...
They don't know what questions to ask yet.
Yeah. Well, they probably have only seen the first, 5 minutes of the episode so far, so... Who knows? Who knows how far has gotten on the internet?
They don't even know we're working on the 2D game this episode.
Exactly, yeah. Somehow didn't even get the description updated somehow. It's using a placeholder one from last week. All right, so let's make these things float around a little bit. So we had, it's interesting. We have harass player. That actually might be a good choice for a power up.
Invert it, run from player.
That's an idea. We could do that. That would be horrible.
Before you started putting the power-ups on layers to collide with player-specific layers, I was wondering, because it looked like something that you'd implement and then an enemy would accidentally start picking up power-ups. So you'd be like, oh, I didn't even...
intend that, yeah, exactly.
I was wondering are there any games that allow the enemies to pick up power-ups and use them against you?
That's a really interesting question. The one that I can think of offhand is Sinistar. In Sinistar, there's these power-ups that give you Cinnebombs that allow you to destroy the Sinistar. You have to mine them out of asteroids. The enemies also are mining them, and they use them to build the Sinistar. So that's really one of the few games I can think of that does that. There's probably a few more out there that do, but that's one that comes immediately to mind when you mentioned that. So I haven't seen one specifically where it's just a regular shooter and then a regular enemy just suddenly has an amazing attack after collecting a few of the player's power-ups. There's also in Gradius, there's an enemy that does something horrible where they take your options away. They have an option stealer enemy that goes in and grabs them from you.
I don't know if I like that.
Yeah. They're by far the worst enemy in Gradius 5 at the very least, just because of the way the game's set up. So, yeah, let's...
throw harass player on all
yeah, let's just throw harass player on it. So let's just do it. Harass player, power up, and we will just apply. And so let's see what they do when we hit start here. Yeah! They harass the heck out of the player.
You have to try and move out of the way.
No. Oh no! All the power-ups are coming to me. No!
Oh, you should leave it like that, but make it so they can collide with enemies.
Oh, interesting. So there's actually a reason to keep the power-ups alive, to, have a shield. I feel like my collision has gotten harder to collide with. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to go to the player damage collider and make it double the size. Man. Yeah, let's make it even bigger. Oops. Damage collider. Let's just make it 5. Yeah, that feels a little bit better. All right. So we have these. That's actually, a decent AI for power up, I'd say. It's kind of a player-friendly AI, which is fine. We could make it more of just a sine wave thing. Actually, we could just probably do Don't we have a sine wave fodder AI? That's what it is. Yeah, we could actually just do a sine wave thing if we wanted to. Let me see if I like the way that feels better. Let's just try it real quick. I'm going to temporarily remove the harass player and hit apply here, and we'll just see what these do. Oh wait, they're moving into the scene, aren't they? Because I tell them to move forward in this. Let me see if I go to not 2D. Yep, they're slowly moving into the scene.
And I think they've gotten out of your far plane.
Yes, they have. Or rather, they're probably still in the far plane, but they got behind the background.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's too much work. We'll just do harass player. That's fine. Alright, so let's just turn this on, remove fodder AI.
They have rigid bodies already, don't they?
Yes, they do.
So you could just clamp the
we could. Yeah, we could do that. The problem is we need to actually set them up as a child object so that they point in the direction that they want to travel, so they travel down. I'm just not going to worry about that. We'll do this basic AI for right now, so we can move on to other things. So let's actually make it so these come out of an enemy. So let's disable our boss for right now. So I'm just going to do one of these. What is it called? Just disable him. And I'm going to put our enemy spawner back, and I actually want to kind of spawn a group. So let's see what we can do on this. So right now, spawn objects just spawns objects and doesn't do anything particularly special. Let's duplicate this, actually. Let's just keep that just in case we want a really vanilla thing. And then we're going to call this spawn wave. So we're going to double click this. We're going to call it spawn wave here. And we're going to have the spawn delay, and we're going to have public int number of enemies. And so we'll do a private int current enemies, or enemy count. So enemy count equals number of enemies. And we'll invoke spawn. And at the beginning here, we're going to we'll do enemy count minus, and then in the spawn thing here, now let's do it in here. So enemy count minus, and if enemy count is less than or equal to 0, and actually I want that to be the reverse of this. If it's greater than or greater than 0, then we invoke spawn. Otherwise, we're done. So, so we're going to do the exact same thing here, except for what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make it so that these get parented to the spawner. So I'm going to do a object. Oh wait, game object instance equals instantiate as game object, and we're going to take our instance dot transform dot parent equals transform. So what this will do is when we actually spawn these things now, let's see if we got this compiled good. We compiled okay, no errors. I'm going to duplicate the enemy spawner here, and we're going to call this a enemy wave. And I'm going to put the spawn wave on here, get rid of the spawn objects. We're going to enable this thing. I'm going to set the settings similar to the enemy spawner, so 0.4 on the spawn delay, 0.4. We'll have them spawn 6 enemies, and we will make them spawn the fodder enemy, whatever they're called. So enemy 1, I think. And so when we hit play here, you should see, well, once we collect all these power-ups, we spawned our wave of enemies there. And you can see that the enemies are actually underneath the enemy wave here. And this will make it so that we can have a script on the enemy wave where if we destroy all the enemies, we'll have them shoot out a power-up. So this way, if we have like groups of enemies, they'll give you a power-up if you destroy every single enemy in the group. So how are we going to do that? Let's first... So I think the first spawn should be instantaneous. So I'm actually going to just have it do spawn, as opposed to an invoke with a delay. And this will make it so that once we get to our update loop, we already have at least one enemy in there. So void... it doesn't matter. I'll still keep it like that. But void update. So if enemy count equals 0, equals 0, then we will do a check if transform child count equals 0, we will spawn a power up. So I'm going to need a public game object power up. So we're just going to do where do we want to spawn the power up? We really should spawn it out of the last enemy. So we shouldn't really check this in the... Let's just get it spawning for right now. Instantiate power up, and we'll do it at transform position, transfer rotation. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of a bunch of these power-ups that we've got going on here. And I'm going to go into the enemy wave, and we're going to put a... Oh. Did I not save this? I saved it. Didn't compile. Alright. Unexpected symbol. Oh, need a semicolon. So, I'm going to hit play. And actually, I want to actually go back here. Enemy wave. Make sure that we put in our power up here. So that's under prefabs, power up. So we're going to hit play. And so we shoot one of the enemies, a few of the enemies. I'm going to try and shoot this one last. And it created... Oh, it's creating a whole lot of power ups. And they're going... Where are they? What is it doing?
Is that it where enemy wave is?
It is. I think it's because the rotation is the problem. Oh, yeah, so the problem is we didn't check to see if we've already instantiated one of these, so we need to make sure that we don't do that again. So easiest way would probably be just to destroy the object at this point. So destroy game object. So that'll keep it from doing the ridiculous amount. And we're not going to use transform.rotation. We're going to use power up dot rotation. Oh, dot transform dot rotation. So this should make it so that it'll actually work the way that we expect it to. So I kill all the enemies, and there's a power up. Yay! And I'm going to avoid it for a bit, and then I'm going to collect it. Yay! And we've got a power up. So that worked. As I said, I do kind of want it to come out of the last enemy, though. So what's the best way to do that? I guess we could just check to see if the parent has. So yeah, we'll do. What do we got in the questions here? I love that people keep mentioning CAPTCHA. That's excellent. Also, is that a Reno picture? Excellent. Love Game Center CX. So we should probably have it on the enemy, although that kind of feels weird. I guess if we only have one enemy left, we could attach some sort of script to the enemy that's left to give it a power up. That seems really convoluted. How would you do this? I'm curious.
The way it's set up right now, just
Or
to get it in quickly, I would probably, on each enemy that dies, send a message upward with its transform, and then here check to see if it's the last enemy.
okay,
And if it is, use its transform
okay,
in instantiating that power up.
all right. And what would you do it if you were organizing it in a way that you didn't want to make your eyes bleed?
I don't know. I started following the way that you organized it and lost track of how
Fair
I would
enough.
have done it.
All right, let's just go ahead and do that. Why not? So on the enemies,
This is why you should think about what you want to create
before you start creating
before
things. Nah.
or at least to some extent. You should have an idea of what you're trying to accomplish before you try to accomplish it.
Agreed. So on give on trigger, I'm just going to add a little function to it. We will send transform.parent.send message. I'm dead. I'm just going to say dead. And we will give it the vector.
position.
Yeah, we'll just
Vector
do position.
Vector 3 position.
Why not just
Or-
transform.position?
Yeah.
So yeah, and we will not require a receiver. So don't require receiver. Nope. Don't require receiver. Thank you. That means that it'll suppress those little errors that we get when something doesn't receive it, and we need to actually have a semicolon at the end here. So now on our spawn wave, we can do void dead vector 3 position. And what we're going to do is we're just going to create a private vector 3 last enemy position. And so we'll just set this last enemy position will be equal to position, and then we throw last enemy position on.
Well, instead of doing this in update, we could move that down to there.
It's a good point, because we don't need to check it every frame at this point. So
And then you don't have to keep the enemy position either.
good point. So we'll just grab position. Oops. Except for when it receives this message, will the child count actually be 0?
No, so check 1.
Okay. Work around again. Alright. Let's see if this works at all like how we expected. So we're going to hit play. And I'm going to shoot. that actually... Oh, null reference exception.
Did it kill the parent before the child died?
Weird. Let's actually... So, first of all, do our bullets not destroy themselves when they die? Hold on, I want to see what the player laser does. Oh yeah, they destroy themselves. We just produce a whole lot of them. Alright, so I just want to kill a couple of them, kill a couple of them. Alright, we've already got a null reference exception at this point. Why? Oh wait, this is probably... No. So... How many of those did we get? We got 4 of them. 1 for each enemy. So why is it not... Object reference not set to instance of object. Where's the actual 25N? It's actually probably the transformed opposition. That doesn't make sense though. What are we doing wrong? Transform.parent.send message. These things have a parent, right? I mean... Okay, just crash into one of them. Okay, that didn't cause a problem. I'm gonna make my shots much slower. I'm just gonna temporarily gimp the player here. We're gonna do the shot delay of like 1 second. Alright, there we go. Okay, so for some reason, first of all, I swear these player lasers are supposed to destroy themselves. Oh, I see the problem. It's actually the lasers that are having the trouble. They're not destroying themselves because they're trying to send a transform. Okay, so if transform dot parent, if transform dot parent does not equal null, then we do this. Okay, that explains a lot of what was going on there. Both of our problems. So now the bullets should continue to destroy themselves, and it shouldn't give us that error anymore. So yay, they destroyed themselves. And the power-up came out of the last enemy. Yay. And now it looks like we have just one stream, even though we actually have one that's firing in there occasionally. So let's go back and turn the...
Don't cross the streams.
Yeah. Let's actually make a small delay, like 0.2 on the regular laser, so it really sucks. And then it becomes amazing. Yeah, no, that's too much of a difference. Just 0. Whoa! That was weird. Huh. Not every time either. Alright. Is it because it's got multiple things touching it at the end? Oh, and nothing that time.
Game objects aren't destroyed until the end of the
frame, yeah.
So 2 of them might have died at the same time that frame.
But why would the multiple thing happen?
Maybe it got hit multiple times by multiple bullets before.
Gotcha.
It was destroyed. I'm not really sure without trying it out some more.
Yeah. All right, let's just add a private bool power up generated equals false, and what I'm going to do is less than or equal to 1, and not power up generated. We will set power up generated equals true, and we'll do that. So now this should probably work every time. Got 1 power up that time.
I think you can still get 0, can you?
I did less than or equal to at this point, so it should... Oh, is there... Oh, if both of them died simultaneously...
Then child count would be 2 for both of them.
Aha, yeah.
Do we also want to keep a copy of this game object on itself and create...
But the next frame it would still produce the power-up, wouldn't it? Oh, but it wouldn't call dead, that's right. Because we're not doing an update anymore. What was the question? Sorry.
Do you want to create a new instantiation of this object before destroying itself so that when you kill the last enemy, a new wave will spawn?
It's not a bad idea. I actually was planning on doing kind of like a level layout thing at this point, so... So, yeah. Yeah, let's just put this back into update. So now we'll want to put this back to 0, and we will, in dead, all we're going to do is do the last enemy position thing. Position, and we use last enemy position here. That should guarantee that we're not going to have any problems with the multiple enemies dying at the same time. Alright, so, what we should do now is let's make a level. Let's figure out how to actually make a level on here, or at least get started on it. So right now we're doing this kind of setup for an infinite scroller. And so what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to save scene, save project. We're going to rename this level to infinite scroll level. And the main reason is because this is just a scrolling background thing, and we're not moving the player. And so I'm going to actually duplicate this, and we're going to make a designed level. We're going to open that up, and we're going to start tweaking things around. So let's make it so that the player actually moves forward, and the camera actually follows that. So the camera moves forward. Let's see how this actually works. So we're going to move the camera. I'm going to create a parent game object to encompass the player and the camera. We're going to call it gameplay area. I'm going to put it at 0, 0, 0. We're going to parent the main camera and the player to it. We're then going to so player still should move independently of the camera, so that's appropriate here. And we're going to make this thing, we're going to actually I'm going to unparent these things again real quick, because I want to change the orientation on this. So gameplay area we actually want to be pointed up. So I'm going to rotate this thing back until it's pointed up-ish. So we're going to do -90. And so now we've got the blue arrow pointed up, so now we can move forward on that. And so if we parent the player and the main camera to this, Unity will be magic for us and make sure that they're still oriented the way that we want them to be. So now if we do, so we have move forward, right? We'll just put this on the gameplay area. And we actually also want to put the background in here. Oh, hey, Phil. You're not too late.
Not too late? What do you mean?
You're not too late. There's still 5 minutes of episode left.
Hey, everybody.
Phil's here. Yay. How's work?
It's good.
You're going to say more in 5 minutes than I've said the whole episode.
That may be true.
So you'll notice that it still looks like we're scrolling at the same rate. When actually we're probably scrolling slower than we think we are, because right now it's still just using that background scrolling, but the background's now moving with us, so we can actually start moving enemies and stuff. We can place things into the level now.
Cool.
So what I'm going to do is what's the best way to handle this? I'm curious if we can do something.
Maybe it's not the best way. You could do something not the best way, but just a way to handle it.
Yeah. So we have this enemy spawner thing. Now, the problem is, these enemy wave things, if we were to place them through the level, they're going to instantly activate at the beginning and spawn everything right where they are. And that might actually be okay.
Might be okay. You could also have an activation box.
Yeah, so I'd rather actually do it based on activation when it gets into near the screen. So I'm just curious if there's
put like a big collision box in there.
Yeah, maybe.
That would work probably. Or have a actual collision layer up near the top to where they actually trigger once they enter it.
So let's disable that.
Just throwing out ideas.
Yeah. So let's so we can't do it on render unless we have a renderable on the object, which I don't really want to do that anyway. It's kind of a hack. So yeah, we'll do it with the big collider like Phil suggested. So let's just do a script, create new C# script, enable all scripts on Collide on trigger. So the reason I have to call it that is because if we just disable this, it will not get a collision response ever, no matter how we set it up. So what we're going to do is on trigger enter. So void on trigger enter. And what we're going to do is for each mono behavior in game object dot get component in children, so we'll just cover everything mono behavior. I think this will work, hopefully.
No, what's worth a shot? You know, what's the worst that could happen?
And we have to actually give the mono behavior a name, so we'll call it mono.
I guess.
So mono dot enabled equals true.
And the worst that could happen is the computer explodes.
So what this should do is it should get all of the mono behaviors, which is basically any script that derives from mono behavior, and then sets them enabled
when it entered. Or
when we have a trigger. So where is this? Enable all scripts on trigger. I'm going to put this on the enemy wave. We will now set up a physics rigid body, kinematic, and then physics box collider is fine. Actually, we'll do a sphere collider. They're technically faster. Physics sphere collider. We'll set it as a trigger. And then finally, we need to actually have a collider for our gameplay area. So I think I'm going to attach it to the background, actually. And we will make it so that there is a physics box collider, and we'll make it thick.
Yeah, it never hurts to make these kinds of things a little thicker. Oh my.
Enough to actually get us into the player area. I guess we could offset it as well, but that'll be
Yeah,
fine.
this will work. Doesn't really matter.
And then enemy wave we will put up higher here, and we'll hit play, and we'll see what happens.
Theoretically, this will work. In theory.
So, oh, I died. How did I die?
Layers.
Oh, yes, layers. I got killed by the background. All right, so...
Oh, yes, that's true.
Yeah, so add layer. We're going to call this the...
Background.
I'm going to call this activation.
Oh.
Yeah, that brings back horrible memories, doesn't it?
Does, actually.
All right, so... we got another problem with activation. It's like,
Of
no!
course
No!
there's a problem with activation.
All right, so we'll call this activation. I'm going to actually make it a trigger for fun, even though it doesn't really matter at this point. And then we're going to make sure that we're going to have to actually...
It's
I think we'll just
already
we'll just use
But we do need to
activation
do-
on activation. We'll just
Yeah,
do
we
that.
do need to-
So
to
project
make it-
settings, physics, and we want activation to not do anything except for collide with itself. That's actually probably dangerous.
Mhm.
So let's actually make 2 layers.
Okay, I think that's a bit safer.
That way we won't have
Activation.
activations bumping into each other
Yeah.
at some point and then activating earlier than we want. So we'll call it activation range, activation area, and I don't know. Let's call it activation activatable. There we go. So activation and enemy wave will be activatable, and we will go back into project settings, physics, and activation should collide with activatable. Wait, no. Alright, I'm just going to disable all of them until we find the right one. Alright, so activation does not get down to, okay, so activatable and activatable, we don't care about that. Okay, activation, activatable, they're right there. That's the intersection we want. And so now if we hit play, our player should no longer die, yay. And as soon as it gets up to this area, we should start seeing enemies spawn in, maybe, come on. Where are you? Okay, you should have totally activated by now.
Yeah, they definitely should have.
Alright, let's put a debug log in here. Triggered. I did on triggering it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
So click play.
Look at our console. Well, we'll see the message if it worked. So it did not work.
Nope.
That is tagged activatable, right?
It's tagged activatable, and the background's tagged activation, and project settings, physics, activation. Oh, that's activation and activation. That's wrong. We
Should
want
be
this one.
activation,
There we go.
activatable. Yeah. That would explain it. That would explain it. But it
Still
doesn't
might be another
actually
problem.
explain it.
Yep, still didn't solve it. This is inside of it, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks
it's
like it.
inside of it.
Alright, so,
There's no way it starts inside of it. That's too far up for that.
yeah, it's not starting inside of it. Although I think it probably might still work, considering the player definitely started inside of his and died very
Yeah.
quickly. So I'm going to... So this has a rigid bite kinematic, that's good. I might as well just put a rigid bite kinematic on here as well, just in case. I know that it shouldn't matter, but let's do it. Hit Play one more time. This does have the script on it, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
it
triggered.
worked.
What happened? What was different that time?
I gave this thing a rigid body.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess that makes
I
sense.
thought the enemy wave already had a rigid body, though. Huh.
Guess they both needed a rigid body.
Why would they both need it, though?
I do not know. Are they both triggers?
And this thing doesn't like having a rigid body because it has no calculatable mass.
It gets angry about it.
Yeah, it does. Because the quad is so flat and it's just like can't compute anything. But it did work.
Though there is an error, but it did work. I mean, theoretically, you could just disconnect the
Why
background.
didn't it work before, though?
not have it on the background.
Oh, because this thing's moving. Okay, I know why I didn't. Because this is the object that's moving, as opposed to the other thing moving. And it's considered a static object right now. So, yeah, that would be the reason. So that is needed on there. So what we can do to fix let's just fix that physics problem real quick and call it a night. So let's just not attach it to the background. Let's just create a cube. Create a cube. We will put it in the gameplay area. We will make it about as big as the background, which is 25, 25, 1, 25, 25. And actually, let's do 25. Let's get rid of the renderer. And let's...
No, there's actually a cube there. Oh, it needs to be offset.
Add physics, rigid body, and it should be at 0.
Alright.
And then put this as activation. We'll call this the
This is the actual activation.
cube. And we will remove the... we don't want this to be on activation anymore.
We don't? Oh, yeah, no.
And we should probably not have a
Yeah, this shouldn't
collider
actually,
at all.
Yeah.
Remove component.
Why does it have a mesh collider?
I don't know. That actually was probably the problem. I probably could have just given it a box collider.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Let's remove that component.
We're already committed at this point.
And hit play.
Hopefully we won't see a nasty looking error, which we don't.
And what did I miss? Oh, it's not schematic. That might help.
Oh.
And it was affected by gravity.
It probably fell out of the area then.
I
very
think
possible.
it did.
Yeah.
Since it didn't show up.
Yeah, there we go.
anymore.
Yay, it activated.
Good deal.
And we got a power up, and it did something.
Cool.
So,
Awesome.
anyway, I'd call that a night. Save project.
Sorry I couldn't have been here for more of it.
And to answer why we're doing 2D Thursday on Monday is because we missed more 2D Thursdays than we missed Mondays, and so I decided to do a make-up 2D Thursday episode on Monday instead of a 3D one because I keep getting emails from people saying, when's another 2D thing? I want more 2D. So,
They're all like Rudy Tooty.
Fruity 2D, fresh and fruity.
Yeah.
That's an old commercial.
Rudy Tooty.
Oh, that's Tutti Frutti.
Oh, it is Tutti Frutti.
All right.
No, I'm just off on a different tangent. All right.
So, Face. Thanks for joining us tonight. Glad that I made it through the whole episode. Glad that we all did. Glad to have you here, Phil.
Yeah. No, sorry I was late yet
Yeah,
again.
no worries. And
Sorry I was late, everyone.
and so, thanks for joining us tonight. If you have any questions, email me at pushypixels@pushypixels.com. You can also tweet me at Dragfire. You should also buy Phil's game, Robot Alone.
Yeah, you should.
And Phil, do you have anything?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. It's at Magmalemur. And it's MAGMALEMUR, at Magmalemur at Twitter. Sometimes I tweet. Sometimes I stream video games. Very rarely. But it happens.
It does happen. It does
So,
happen.
And you
It's
should
weird to have
only-
you all the way up there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm tall right now. I'm not sitting. And you should donate to Cooking with Unity.
Yes. So I said I was going to totally get to that stuff this weekend. That was a lie because I got sick. But next weekend, going to be printing out the stuff, getting through the list. So So yeah, donate. Swag will be coming. Actually, it's not swag because that's supposed to be stuff we all get. It's
I
stuff
guess so,
that
yeah.
only cool people get. So, well, not cool people.
So-
I'm sure that there's a bunch of cool people who have not donated, and so not donated does not make you not cool. It's just, you know what I mean.
We can still call it swag. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It is in the if statement somewhere. But
If
there's
statement.
other things that cancel it out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
You can be cool without donating, but donating
It's-
really helps.
Yes, exactly. If donated equals cool equals true. So that's an automatic. So if you weren't cool, you can become cool by donating to the show. I like that.
There's a couple ors, but it gets confusing.
Yeah,
There's a lot of parents flying around everywhere.
So, on that bit of programming humor, thank you very much, and you guys have a great night, and we'll see you again on Thursday, probably with another 2D episode, and I may do another makeup episode at some point this week, but don't hold me to it.
Have
So-
a good night.
Yeah, have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.